Welcome, everybody, to Come Back to Love. I'm Robyn Vogel, and we are on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. I'm your host. I'm a love and intimacy coach, an IFS therapist, and the creator of Ready for Love in 90 Days. This is a sacred space where we explore the real, raw, and beautiful journey of coming home to love, starting with ourselves and extending to the relationships we long to heal, deepen, or ignite. Each week, I'll share powerful tools, heart opening stories, and transformational insights to help you release the old patterns that keep love just out of reach. Whether you're healing from heartbreak, feeling stuck in familiar dynamics, or simply craving connection, you are in the right place. Welcome to our new listeners this week. Welcome to our listeners that have been tuning in every week. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm especially so happy to be with dear friend and colleague Jodi Golda Comator today. I am totally positive we are going to have a juicy conversation. So stay tuned, listen in, maybe get out your journals or pad of paper, grab a pen, and get ready for this ride. Welcome, Jodi Golda. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yay. Thank you for having
Yay.
me. I'm so happy
Yeah,
to be here with you too.
you are so welcome. So let's start by sharing with the listeners like who you are, what you're doing in the world.
Mm, yeah, well, I think first and foremost, as I listened to your intro, I feel like I identify as a lover. I'll claim that
Awesome.
one. Lover, lover of life, lover of depth, lover of people, relationships, adventure, exploration, but mostly lover with people. I choose love again and again. I am also a coach, and I've been coaching for about 15 years. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I recently moved to Portugal, and I'm living in Setúbal,
Hmm.
just south of Lisbon, and I'm happy.
I love that.
Important,
Oh
right?
my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we're off to such a great start. Like a lot of people, no judgment, they're sort of like sharing their bio. You're like, I'm a lover. I'm happy. I live in Portugal. I'm a coach. Really, like those are the most important things. Like, who
Yeah.
wants to be around people? Well, I love being around people who are happy and also who identify as lovers.
Yeah. You see my
Love of
necklace?
life. Yeah, your necklace for those that are listening on the radio, Jodi Golda has a necklace. I have the same one, by the way. It says LOVE and it's all in individual letters around her neck. I have one that hangs down that
Oh, of
vertically says LOVE. So I should have had
course
mine
you
on
do. Of
today.
course you do.
Yes. So you have had quite an interesting sort of work path, and I'd love it if you shared just a little bit about it because I personally have only known you for a little while, and I've been so impressed by your early success in life. I thought to myself when I heard it, like, she must be pretty brilliant.
Well, brilliant and also, risk taker and,
Hmm.
follower of my heart. Yeah, the short story was early on in my career. I mean, we're talking, 30 years ago, I pioneered the kids yoga movement in the West and
Wow.
opened up the first kids yoga only studio in New York City. And
Wow.
it was such a passion, purpose driven, career where basically I was just doing what I love to do, which is working with children and teaching yoga. And one thing,
Awesome.
led to another. I didn't have much entrepreneurial or marketing or business experience, except for that it was in my blood. My dad was an entrepreneur, but I just was a very intuitive businesswoman. And while at first I did not even think it was going to be what it was, which turned into a very successful multi six-figure international company that I ultimately sold.
Oh
Um,
my God.
but I did all the things inside that that yoga business from, having studios and running retreats and writing books and videos and curriculum and membership and teacher trainings and train the trainer licensing, like did built the kids yoga empire, right? That would
Wow.
exist. And yeah, it was
Wow.
quite the run.
Wow. Just wow. Like I have just a huge wow.
Thank you.
I wish I had done that early on.
Well, yeah, it still kind of surprised me, like, wow, I did that. And I'm like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
father was also an entrepreneur, which is, I think, where it comes from in me as well.
I love that we share that. It's
Yes, and also the growing up in New York or being in New York, a New York gal.
Jewish Americans, American
Yes, we
Jews.
have all of that in common too.
Yeah.
Wow, well, that is really amazing. And I know that your work has changed a lot since then. And one of the things that you've been writing about lately and talking about is transition and change of identity. And I think it's, first of all, I think it's naming something that people don't put words to necessarily. Like you hear a lot of people, oh, I changed jobs, or I'm looking at leaving a job, or I just started a new job, but it's all about job, job, job. And that's the external piece. And the internal piece is actually a shift in identity. So I'd love to talk more about that. And also just to say, like, it can be so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess I'll just drop that in and would love to hear your response.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, everything you said about, yes, the outer is the shift in, the work or the career or the job, but really it's the inner that I think is so, as you said, like unspoken about. And as I shared about my first, main identity. And funnily, in my intro, I'm like, I didn't even really talk much about my identity except for
Right.
coach, right?
Yes. I'm
Um,
happy.
yeah, so I did the kids yoga thing for 21 years, and I would say the last 6 years of, wearing that, role identity, I was in conflict inside myself around no longer really feeling that it was mine to do. And I think that's something that's important for so many women is like how often we stay in these roles and these identities out of comfort, out of other people's expectations, out of, this is what all I know, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think
Mm,
that was a very true for me for 6 years. I stayed in it because I inside I knew that I was hitting that upper limit of like, I think I'm complete. I think I've done everything that I can. I think that this is no longer, I knew like on an intuitive level that I was done, but for 6 years, I stayed in the comfort, which, like I said, I think is very normal.
mm,
Not necessarily necessary, but I think it's common because it's scary. It's scary to make a big change. It's scary to,
yes.
for ourselves and for what everyone else around us can think or might think about, this big change. And so I had already started coaching and was really falling more in love with coaching than I was with kids yoga. I could see where I was feeling more aligned with that. I was just feeling inspired and felt more excited. Um, and so ultimately, I came to reconcile inside myself that it was time for me to sell next generation yoga. So I did do that, but it was, like I said, a lot of years of inner turmoil to get there. Um,
Mm,
After I wound up selling the business, I did some really, really deep inner work um,
mm,
around dismantling the identity that I wore for 21 years of being a pioneer in the kids yoga industry because I knew there was something inside of me that just knew if I ever wanted to reinvent myself, I had to be conscious and intentional about the transition.
Mm.
Right. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
I knew that, like, right, like here I am, like I'm known for, all this work in this one field that, like,
Yes.
I had to do death ceremony. I had to, release intentionally with ritual this identity. I had to harvest, honor, release, grieve, love, all the things that was in that last chapter to really shed the role, the identity, to come like purely home to who am I without that identity and to really get to
Mm.
know myself. So that was my process. I did that for 2 years and I, blessed because I sold the business, I had some freedom, I could travel, which was part of my journey. And I really took that time very intentionally to do that process.
Wow. Wow. I think that, obviously you have, I mean, I'm stating the obvious, you have so much wisdom and and somehow you had that wisdom so long ago, which also impresses me. But to do a death ceremony, kind of letting go of what's not serving or what you're not identifying with and coming into something new and using ritual and also doing it very intentionally is just so beautiful because it's so clean. It really honors I talk about this a lot with my private clients. Like, how can you honor all of what you experienced, even, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever, adjectives I don't necessarily use, but just honoring all of it, um, which is so important in order to step back into yourself before then stepping into something new. And these transitions, I mean, you just identified and I just said the slowing down of the transition. Like, often there's not a complete ending and there's something new beginning and it's all like mixed up together energetically and it feels uncomfortable, but nobody really understands why. And then it can get sticky and tricky and sometimes complex. But those three steps, of like completing, coming back to yourself first with a blank slate and then stepping into something new just feels so important. And as you're talking about it related to your career, I'm inside translating all of it related to relationship. Although it also, for me personally, reflects my own career journey.
Yeah.
Um, Go ahead.
There's two things I want to respond to is like, first off, like our culture, right, teaches us like, hurry up, get to the next thing.
Yes.
Our culture doesn't value completions. It prioritizes beginnings.
Yes.
Right? Like there's no such thing as a ceremony for divorce. There's no such thing as I mean, yes, we do death, if somebody dies, we'll have, we'll find a
Yeah.
funeral or such, but like mostly there's no such thing as ceremony for women, right? Like menopause, right? Instead, we're busy with weddings and we're busy with,
Mhm.
moving forward, right?
Yeah. Very
So I
true.
think that really, challenges what culture says, and why so many times it's like, you know, I always laugh at this. It's like couple gets engaged and the first thing someone says, when are you getting married? You're like, can you just enjoy
Right.
engagement, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So the other piece is, you're talking about these three phases, and so in my work right now with women, which I'm calling the Outgrown Identity Club,
Love it.
there's actually four pillars that we touch on, and the first one is about choosing to make the change, choosing to claim the transition. Because, like I said, mine took 6 years, right? Because we can waffle because of all the external, whatever is telling us it's not the right time or I can't do this, right? So, really choosing it and doing all that release work, all that, appreciating, honoring, grieving, all that we just spoke about. And then the second pillar is being in the mystery, like being in the
Hmm.
unknown of like, what the heck is happening? Like it's that liminal.
Hmm.
place of I don't really know who I'm becoming yet, right? Like I don't really know what life or work is going to look like, or even the next relationship, whatever it is. And
Yes.
then the third pillar, and again, these are so not linear. This like it's a very non-linear process. The third pillar is around your authenticity, right? Because so often, especially I work with women, women are heavily outside themselves and doing what other people want for them or what other people what they think other people need from them, making sure everyone else is okay. So really getting in touch with what's authentic for them outside of other people's expectations, outside the culture. Um, and then the fourth is around purpose. It's around having depth and meaning. So those are the four pillars that are
Mm,
inside the work that I'm doing with women in the
beautiful.
Identity Club.
I love it. The Outgrown Identity Club. Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and I can't wait to hear more about that. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Come Back to Love Radio. I'm Robyn Vogel, your host, and I'm here today with Jodi Golda, Commodore. We are talking about the Outgrown Identity Club, of which we all belong to, by the way. I know you primarily work with women, but all of us, men, women, all genders, all go through this Outgrown Identity Club all the time, like over and over and over and over again. Let's drop it into relationship for a bit since it all relates to relationship. I wonder if you want to share anything personal about your own story. I can then share something about my own outgrown identities over the years. But just inviting our listeners to tune in to themselves and kind of get a sense of where they are at on this continuum of identity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good one because for sure, and I know you have probably a ton to say on this of like when we are in relationship, like we have a certain identity about ourselves, like who we are in relationship with this beloved, how we show up in the world. Are we sovereign? Are we enmeshed? Are we, monogamous, whatever, all the different ways in which we identify inside that relationship. And, in terms of identity and something that I know I'm working fiercely on inside my relationship is the experience of maintaining myself, capital S, without getting lost inside the relationship and staying um, true to my desires, my needs, my interests, my friendships, right? To like really hold myself so that, the heavy, enmeshment doesn't occur. I've done that before. And, when that relationship in the past of being heavily enmeshed, transitioned, then I'm like, who am I? Right. And then you go through these pillars of like, releasing, as you're saying, taking with you the good, and then being in the unknown of like getting to know yourself again. So I think for me, can I be both, a really good quality partner and have that, I like when I say good quality, I mean like supportive and loving and with, but also maintain my sovereignty with the relationship.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. I keep thinking about the big dilemma of the pain of ending a relationship, and I say big dilemma because not because it's not part of life, but because it seems to be a dilemma in our culture or in maybe just human. I think it is different from culture to culture. Like it might be different in tribal culture than it is in our Western culture. But in our Western culture anyway, which is all I can speak to, is this discomfort and protection that we all have inside ourselves from pain because it's so uncomfortable and painful. And so shifting into a new identity, whether you're married and then divorced, or married and then separating, or in a relationship that you highly identify with. It even applies to mothers and then empty nesters.
Mhm.
It's like giving space to that can be so challenging. And I think it keeps people from making the move, even if we're forced in some way to make a move, you know. Um, you know, even if we're married and then divorced, it's not that that didn't happen, legally. But there's still inside us, we have to catch up with what's happening outside.
Yeah.
And this applies just in so many places. Like, you know, even if you had a partner who passed away, it's like there's this internal shift that has to be made at some point to catch up with what's happened on the outside in order to even have the space to answer that question that you asked, which is like, who am I now? And
Mm.
really the question is, who am I?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I'll just go back to that's why I find this pillar of choice, right? Because
Mm,
whether the relationship transition happened, by our own personal choice or it happened without our, somebody's like, we're done,
yeah.
right? It happens, and still there is agency that we can have around the transition out of the relationship, right? Like there's still this
Yeah.
power in choosing, okay, eh, we're no longer that, right? And again, doing all that inner work of honoring, appreciating, celebrating, grieving,
Mhm.
dying away, like in being intentional about it, right? And that's where I think ritual and ceremony is so important,
Yeah.
for any sort of ending, whether it's relationship or career or whatever.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little more. When I love my radio show. And
Yay.
one of the things I love about myself as a radio show host or an interviewer is that I'm always thinking about the listeners on the other side. I don't get to see any of you that are listening in right now, which makes me sad. I would like to see you. Um,
Who's
so please
there?
feel free to reach out. Robin at comebacktolove.com. Feel free to let me know you're listening in. Um, but I'm thinking about people walking on the street and listening at their headsets or driving in their car and listening to, Pandora or whatever the ways are that they're listening and or watching this podcast. And I'm always imagining what kinds of questions they have that because we're on a radio show can't be answered directly. So the question that I keep hearing is, what does that mean to like create a ritual and what would it even look like and what would I do? So I would love to give our listeners some real tangible stuff around that because I think for someone like you and someone like me, it's like it's natural. Oh, you do this, we might light a candle
Yeah,
and go out and burn something in the fire.
yeah,
But you know, it's unique to
yeah,
us.
yeah.
And
Good.
yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that in because you're right. We shouldn't assume
Mm,
that it's so, normal that everyone has access or knows what this idea is. So let's unpack it a little bit.
yeah.
Um, the idea of ritual is taking the intangible, right? Like the breakup or the ending of the career or the move, the thing that's ending, and making it tangible, right? So bringing some intentionality to whatever is ending. And it can look so many different ways. Simple, you mentioned it, writing down, writing a love letter to the job or writing a love letter to
Mm,
yourself that is, transitioning out of this relationship or writing, some words and, burning it in a fire or even just, tearing it up. But again, it's creating it's slowing down, right? Like it's ritual. It is not just like, oh, let me do it in between, the bathroom and getting to bed. Like you really want to give it some, love
Yes.
and intentionality, and time and space. So often I know that I love to do ritual in a natural environment or on a day where I have no plans and I'm going to like dedicate, if you're into, um, just incense or things that smell good. You could bring things in, you can bring flowers in, you can pour a cup of tea. So bringing nourishment into the experience. Another ritual could just be, like I said, just writing a letter to yourself that is you know again, a love letter that is, transitioning out. You can go big and do like the death ceremony, which is, what I did a lot of, and I did multiple death ceremonies where I took myself into the woods and I actually, brought flowers and I, tucked myself lying down in like a little bit of a ditch and I covered myself. I mean, super weird and woo, but I did it. And because it
Uh-huh.
was a
Yep.
way of actually creating some, realness to what was like what I was just holding in my head. And I spoke out loud and I, imagined that all these people, from my former yoga business and career were there. And I thanked them and I thanked who I was. And I took myself through like, a eulogy, these putting the air quotes, right? So it could be as big as something, or I say big, but like something is, wild or something is, and who's to say it's wild? Maybe I'm just saying it's wild. What about you? What are some ritual or things
Well,
that you
first of all, that's beautiful. It reminds me of Anana's journey of, going into the underworld as she does and then comes out. And for those of you that don't know about Anana, you can look her up. Look her up. She's the goddess of the underworld, and I've done some similar ritual like that, lie down and put the leaves over me. And I was with a group, and um, it was a whole supported, structured ritual. Was That was intense. That was
Mhm.
intense.
Yeah.
Powerful. And I mostly do, and this is what I, for those brand new to ritual, would encourage. I mostly do writing. I do write love letters to the event or the person or the situation, acknowledging everything, acknowledging the stuff that felt good, acknowledging the things that felt challenging and difficult, acknowledging all of my parts as much as possible. The grieving ones, the happy parts, the parts that are scared, etc. Um, and another piece around that, which I find really helpful, is to then take each one of those parts and write from the part. So the part that's grieving can write its own entry in my journal. The part that's angry about a breakup or a, transition can get all that anger out. The part that feels really good, the part that feels relieved, whatever it is, there's no right or wrong around what parts show up. And I think for me, that's really helpful because we can have a tendency, myself included, to keep some of these parts tucked in below the surface and not give them airtime. So anger, for example, I was talking to a client last week and they were like, yeah, what's the point in getting angry? It doesn't really change anything. And I said, oh, well, that is really interesting. It's a belief. And um, it's not a truth, it's a belief. And so the angry part has been tucked away when I invited her, in particular this client, to see if that part could actually show itself and have some voice, some point of view. It kind of unplugs something that's been held inside tightly. And I did learn a long time ago that we can't fully express if we're keeping even one part kind of tucked in.
Mm.
And so that's part of my ritual is to really give voice to all of the parts. And then I've done a lot of fire. because fire is one of my main elements for transformation.
Yeah.
So, I write things, I burn them up in the fire, even if it's just a little flame in my sink. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I especially love, giving voice to all the parts in the experience.
Yeah.
Two more that I'll add to the mix are, um, as you know, when we're in, deep in relationship, if there's an ending of that relationship, there's like this energetic tie that's there, right? Whether it's,
Yes.
and so like doing some, energetic cord cutting, right? And again, oftentimes these ritual need, more than once, and
Yeah.
like, yes, you'll probably feel the difference if you, cut. And, again, this is all energetic, but you could use your imaginary scissors, you can use your hand karate chopping, and might happen more than once if you're continuously feeling that connection. And then the other one is also like I love the writing, I love the burning, and also using objects. It could be anything from nature, it could be flowers, and, tossing it over something. It could be into
Mm.
water, it could be over, a bridge, into a stream.
Yes.
So releasing in those ways. So, so good. So, so juicy.
So good. Yeah, so good. The
Yeah.
tossing over the bridge into the water reminds me of my connection to um, the ashram that I'm connected with, that is the Hindu lineage, and we have a ceremony twice a year called Navaratri, and what we do at the end of honoring the different aspects of the divine inside ourselves and what we want to let go of is we throw this incredibly beautiful altar that we've created with flowers and color. We drive up into the mountains to a bridge and we toss it over into the water, and it's actually huge. And then in the water it just kind of all separates and just flows down the river. It's
I have the
like a
chills.
final, yeah, it's
Yeah, there's
beautiful.
something again. I mean, I have the chills just imagining it, but there's something about doing something physically that works
Yes,
on like the, subtle energetic layers
yes,
that actually make a difference. Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
And it's not always easy. It takes discipline.
Yeah,
It takes something to say, hey, I'm going to spend my Saturday morning,
yeah.
creating a ritual or doing something to support this aspect of my transition.
Yes, choose a day, choose a time, do it. Doesn't have to be 8 days and 5 hours. It just takes
Not at
15
all. It could be
minutes.
like, yeah, 20 minutes.
Yep,
Right. Exactly.
exactly.
Uh,
Good. All right, we're going to take a commercial break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Come Back to Love Radio. I'm Robyn Vogel. We're on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. And we are just coming around the bend with Jodi Golda this morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening. I, I, I really am thinking about about all the people listening that have been tuned in today and how there are probably some, because this is what shows up in my practice often, is that completions haven't been complete. And when completions aren't complete, there are, like we just were talking about, there are cords of energy that are stuck in the past, stuck to people, stuck to situations, stuck to issues, challenges, etc. And when these energetic connections are still there, they drain our energy. And God knows, we know so many people that say often, I'm so tired, I'm so drained, I'm having trouble functioning. And it's not the cure-all because there are often many things, but incomplete, there should be a word that's incompletions. Incompletions, is that a word? The things that
yeah,
are
that's a word.
incomplete, incompletions,
Incompletion.
I guess it's a word, yeah.
Yeah.
They're really draining our energy. I know it's been true for me. And so, so I'm just actually putting a plug and an invitation to connect with you, and you can share with us how to do that because, you know, to navigate like how to do that and what's next, just feels really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, you're so right. Having incompletions, no matter what area of your life, when you are, one foot in, one foot out, you're still kind of hanging out in the past. It is exhausting. There's, burnout, fatigue. There could be physical, stuff going on as well. High stress, anxiety, busy mind, lack of sleep,
Mm,
aches and pains in the body, all of that, right? And so
yes.
there is so much benefit of doing this inner work so that you could step more fully into what's next for you, whether it's your own, relationship that you're, feel like is more aligned for you, the work that is more aligned for you, the project, whatever it is that's next for you, doing that completion work is essential.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. We really can't move forward until we do it. And I know in my world, a lot of people are wanting to be in relationship and haven't really fully moved out of what they've been in,
Yeah.
whether it's childhood trauma or a past relationship. And that's where we start. It's like, where are those pieces that are hiding beneath the surface that are still very activated in the present? And that completion work is so important.
Yes.
Yeah. So how can our listeners reach you and what would you like to offer?
Yay. Yeah. Thanks for the invitation to share that. Okay.
Mhm.
So, as many people in transition, my website is pretty outdated, however. So I would
Yes.
just say that's coming. But I would say if you're interested in connecting and doing any of this work, just shoot me an email. It's JG, stands for Jodi Golda, so JG at jodigolda.com, and we could connect there. Also, if you'd like to book a session. I'd like to gift all of your listeners, Robyn, or whoever feels called and drawn to this kind of work. I'd like to gift you a Navigate What's Next call where we can look at where you are, where you sense you might want to be heading next, and what you might still be holding on to and needs to be completed or released. And I guess we'll put that link to book that in the show
Yes.
notes.
Yes. Perfect. Okay, so just below wherever you're listening and or watching, because this is also on my YouTube channel and other podcast platforms, there will be a link to schedule a 30-minute session with Jodi Golda to just begin to explore this process of navigating what's next and doing the really important work of ritualizing and honoring your outgrown identities, whatever they are. Yeah. And no shame. I just want to add that piece because, we have such loyalty in ourselves and we hold on to things. I know this because I do it. We hold on to things for a very long time and years and years and years. And there's no time like the present to release and shift whatever it is. As my 27-year-old son t said to me this weekend, Mom, time to let go.
Mm. Oh, so much wisdom. So much wisdom in that boy, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
But I guess I just add to that, like if you have any inkling that you might be holding or be feeling tethered or stuck in an old identity, like that's your signal. Like any inkling.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and sometimes I know we're finishing up, but I just want to add to that too to make it more clear even. It's like when you're having trouble moving forward, that could be the indication, right? That you haven't actually let go of the past. And the energy and the universe aren't necessarily going to allow you to move forward because there's still work to be done. So if you're feeling that, like, why can't I move forward in my work, in relationship, in life in some ways? It's a wonderful time to pause, click on the link to schedule your Navigating What's Next session with Jodi Golda. Reach out to either one of us and share what's happening. Feel free to comment and subscribe and like in all the places. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you to Dream Vision 7 Radio Network for hosting us. Lots of love to everybody. We're on live Thursdays at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and we look forward to being with you next week. Have a beautiful day, everybody.
Bye.